We're going to make a little noise. Once we have the prayer, we're gonna do a combination of exercises here. So we'll be on the it's going to be recorded. So I'm going to so we'll do a little practice before after the drum song and the opening prayer. We're going to do an exercise so that everybody hears us.
This year, we're celebrating 25 years of First Nation control of First Nations education. The conference's theme, 25 Years, Many Minds, Many Voices, acknowledges the many people who have contributed to the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center and its work over the past quarter of a century. Starting with just a handful of First Nation education professionals, now the Resource Center and the Manitoba First Nation school system collectively employ over 700 people devoted to making the education experience for First Nation youth and children a positive and holistic journey. With much pride, we acknowledge the accomplishments of the Manitoba First Nation Education Resource Center into what it is today, the education institution it is now. Thank you for being one of the many minds and many voices contributing to First Nation schools and the betterment of the education experience for First Nation youth and children.
Hold on. Have a seat, have a seat. You guys are too excited. Calm down.
We're about to start. I'll just give you Brandon drum thumbs up and then we'll go.
All right, boy, you guys are the ones who stood up right away. They're using their eyes. If your eyes, I know you guys, why you didn't stand up? You were doing this. Look. If you're single, you won't see your future walk by. You'll still be at home making craft dinner by yourself. I think tonight I'm gonna mix it with wieners. I wanna light a candle by myself. Tomorrow I'm gonna have bologna. So put these away. Look around. If you have a sore neck, it's called too much Facebookatitis, too much Snapchat. What's wrong with your neck? I don't know. It started about a year ago. So, all right, we're ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. If you can please rise, take off your hats. the Eagle staff is being held by Ed Charles. VIPs are Ovid Mickerty with the lead staff, and the staff flags are carried by Curtis Nipanak and Darvin Dumas. And we have the chiefs, the board of directors, dancers, elders, and the directors. Thank you. Please remain standing. We will now have our opening prayer with Ed Azier. One more flag song? Okay. All right, do the flag song first.
No prayer, then flag.
Okay, prayer and flag. Don't ever correct me when I'm up here. Ever. Okay, we're going to have a prayer, then a flag song.
Go ahead and
Okay. Don't hit me. Namaskar no, ni ako magantik. Naspits seatso kutawi no. Holy dynamite. That's a lot of Indians in here. We had a beautiful ceremony this morning, and I don't want to say a hell of a lot here because we're already behind time. So, from where you are, I'm not going to presume just because I've been asked to come and say the prayer. I'm not going to presume that I'm going to be heard up here. I need your help as well. Kisto, pagsemetrok, tagagi simuwek. Where you are, in your own way, say a prayer. The other thing is this. Typically, when we make prayers, we humble ourselves. We sit ourselves down. You're all standing. I'm not going to ask you to sit down, but typically that's what we would do. So I'm just going to step aside here and make my prayer. Where you are, Kisto, I'm asking you in a good, kind, humble way to make a prayer for everything to go well with what we're setting out to do here. Like I said. Penenas kumuan sa mina. Kaganaw, kaya tuskihagan. Kagipewitsu kumauti. Iksepa, kagipito kaya kuspakan. Nutawinan, pagsemo at ibikipa. Tapmenan, nagatemenan sa papegwa. Pues, pinistutama. Bukit kekwa na, kawi mam skota man. Anong sumakali sila? Utaw siya, tigiwat at tamaso ay matso ay pinawya. Luta, mo'y gatski katek nas kumte. Ani mo somte, uta, si pagi sa kanong kaneo tapye. Utso kumauta. Niyo ako magan te kahini ko no te. Uta. Mas kegi sekan uta uta pi. Which ko mo yan. Isto. Ni mo so manan. No kom na. Uta. Mas kegi sekan uta uta pi. Isto. Which ko mo yan. Tuminog isi tumaso akong tatuskayo na. Epse, egagi sumuan. E pinanas kumuan. Ay, may tuya. Ay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, please remain standing. All right, now we're going to have our flag song. Thank you. The last table, you can sit down. The rest of you stay up. Have a seat, please. Have a seat. There's some reserved tables for the dignitaries. And welcome everybody. If you're standing by the wall, make your way, find a table, join the crowd.
Water, man. Good.
All right.
Maybe we'll pull this back. Okay. Okay. All right, bro.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Welcome, everybody. I want to thank this gentleman here, Michael, for inviting me, and also the MF group, and to MC today for the next 7 days. We'll start today and we'll end at 2 o'clock in the morning today. Casino will still be open another hour, so don't panic. But do you know we have different languages, a whole bunch of different languages that we have here. Even the geese that are flying up north have different languages. Not all of them land in Winnipeg. They go that way. The Ojibwe goose, they come over here and they sound like this. Arnin, 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 Arnin. Oji Cree, they say Bizan, 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 Bizan. Cree, they say dance, 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 dance. When they go to Dene, they go Mercy, 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 mercy. Or again, the guys are trying to hunt, they say SJ, SJ, SJ. And they go the Inuit. And they sound like this. But I'm not teasing them. I'll have none of it. But anyways, I have one more minute here before we do the first one. You know those Maori people? They go like this. Like that, eh? They stick their tongue out. That's what we all do. We stick our tongues out. You know what they're saying? I was slowing it down. And I was looking at it. They were saying, Anin buzu akanite danse. Those are Maoris. And they stick their tongue out. And they have tattoos. Probably you guys here have tattoos. And you see your ex over there. I tattooed my ex over here. Look at that. Still left me. All right, we're ready to start. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Okay, this is what I said. I'm going to do the video. So you guys have to follow what I say, okay? We can set this one off. Ready? Are we ready? This is for the video. So everybody will be jealous. You ready? Everybody say, Deo. Gee West. Louder. All right, here we go. Deo. 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 Say Ken Biggity's the best. All right, you ready? All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. How many of you here smoke? Raise your hand. Oh, nobody smokes? Awesome. Bunch of liars. Honey, yes, I will not go gamble. No, I will not go gamble. I'll stay in the room. All right. Okay, we're right on schedule. We're actually 9:29. We're on time. Holy smokes, look at that. Give yourself a big hand. All right, we're going to have our opening remarks. Our first speaker is with MF NERC, Executive Director. I'll invite Charles Crushane. Did I say it? Cochran. I made the mistake again last year. Last year it hit me in the ribs really hard. I better get ready. Charles Cochran. Ladies and gentlemen, give him a big hand.
Oh, you always make that mistake. Yeah.
Big Witch, thank you very much. Thanks for the opening comments, remarks. It's very, very enlightening. Ken something. No, I was kidding. Got him back. First of all, gichimigwech. Apachige guno mas ako ma muda biang chibina gishka diang. Apa gichi nenda agot sogo. Gichige gu sogo as hama wasogo no ma anagishka diang. Akine gu sa da kita no kine na sa benunja kas we know anja no kyang. We know ani shoma jama muda biang. Miye no de kedwan. Na deni mana ane ka benunjak. We know ani shoma. We know Shenja Mat is young. We know Shenja no King. We know Mumancha Yang. Kachimigwach me know. First of all, I want to say welcome. Thank you very much for the opening prayer, the pipe ceremony this morning by Ed. Also the opening, and I thank Ken for the bringing us together like this in a good way. The goose call was a good one. The which I also want to say, really, it's all out to say a message to yourselves for coming here today. It's very enlightening, very powerful. It's really an honor to be hosting this great conference for the people of the communities. I do want to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, and want to acknowledge and thank the Treaty 1 community for allowing us to work and be here together with them. So I do want to acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge the very important people that come to visit us, and that's really our dignitaries, our VIPs, and I know they don't like to be referred as that because they are our people and they are people. So certainly some of them are going to come up and speak. I don't want to speak for any much longer because you want to hear from them. I do also, though, want to acknowledge this being obviously an education conference, and acknowledge that we've been, as an organization, the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center has been in existence now 25 years. 25 years of hard work, and we thank the schools, we thank the communities for continuing giving the support to the organization. As executive director, I've been executive director now for 4 years, and my day never changes. It's always the same. It's always different. That's what I mean by always the same. There's always something different and something new. I want to welcome visitors. I see visitors from the Yukon, our friends. My friend Bill over there. Welcome, Bill. Welcome, Yukon territory. I also want to acknowledge the hardworking people in our schools and in our First Nations, and obviously that's why we come together. It's you that, as I'll say, the people that do the footwork, the groundwork in the communities, the important work. We want to acknowledge the teachers in each of the communities. So I thank you for coming out. It's all for supporting the teachers in the schools. So Ichimi Wech. Our First Nation teachers, our friends, and I'm going to do it again. I always acknowledge the communities that come from outside and come and teach in our communities, because it's very vital. We all need to work together. We also need your help. So I'm going to acknowledge the Filipino community. I see friends here. Thank you. I'm also going to acknowledge again, I want to be politically correct in saying this, our African Caribbean community, teachers that come from the communities. So Chimiwech, and thank you very much. And then other friends, I see, certainly, again, I've got to say Grand Chief Kathy Merrick, Grand Chief Garrison Sete, friend Ovid.
Can I bother you just for a second?
Yeah.
I apologize for interrupting Charles's remarks, but we have an ambulance coming in and making its way to this back corner. So everybody in the back there, if you see the ambulance people coming in, please get out of their way. We have somebody in distress in the back corner there. So, yeah, thank you. Sorry, Charles.
No problem. Oh, I hope it's all right. Just to finish my comment, I thank the Grand Chief, Kathy Merrick, Grand Chief Garrison Sete, friends, for me, an Honorable Ovid Mercredi, thank you. Elders, very much so, the elders that have come in, Brian, Shirley, and others, there's many friends. Dr. Murdoch, I see over there, nice, I always acknowledge Dr. Murdoch. And really, when we look at the 25 years, and this is where I want to finish my comments, is we've had a lot of trailblazers over the longest time to get where we are today. You know, when I think of people like Gwen Merrick, Virginia Arthurson, Sharon Fiddler, there's so many to name, and you know, and unfortunately, I wish I could bring them up all in my mind, but very much trailblazing in the communities, and I will acknowledge that. And also still those that are still here, Mary Crochet comes to mind, and many others that have been involved in the developing to where we are today. My predecessor, Lauren Keeper. So I just want to acknowledge that. We do have the ambulance attendants coming through, so please make way for that. At this point, I think I will stop, and I'm going to certainly acknowledge and wait for the outcome of this. So with that being said, I'm just going to stop right now, and I thank everybody. We do want to acknowledge what is happening here. So let's take a little prayers to the person that's experiencing hardship.
Dr. Colin Clark Belmont fell ill on Sunday.
So we extend our prayers out to, that's our colleague. And maybe just one last message before I I leave is also want to acknowledge a person that has been very close to us for many years as part of our organization, and the recent loss of Rebecca Ross, one of those trailblazers that have continued to work in First Nation education for many years. And alongside with others such as Shirley, Malcolm Fontaine, again, Gwen, Virginia, and so on, many of those that have been involved. So just wanted to acknowledge that. Again, I say thank you very much for having me. As you know, I'm as host, welcome everybody, and let's have a lot of dialogue. Let's have fun. That's all we're asking. Gechimiigwech. Thank you very much.
All right, I want to thank everybody for being so cooperating during our little emergency there. As we know, everything has spirit, and spirit can infuse a room. So one of the ways that we get rid of bad energy is by applause. So if we could give the lady as well as the emergency people a big round of applause just to get rid of that energy. All right, and one last thing. I hate to be a heavy, but there's a lot of people here. So people are going to have to sit with each other. If there's an empty seat, please be welcoming to the person that's going to sit there, even if you don't know them. And if you see an empty seat, please sit in it. You're going to have to sit with strangers. There's just too many of us to just sit with our buddies. All right, Kent? Oh.
This is a modern snare. This is how you trap and snare a guy or a girl. If you lose that, too bad. All right, we'll move right along here really quickly. Somebody's medication. Right here.
Does anybody, yeah, if anybody has any lost any pills, we do have some crushed tablets here. Yellow, white, and red and white.
All right. If you don't pick them up in 1 minute, I'll try them. And then see how it goes. I'm just kidding. Somebody's medication. We need good medication and good laughter. All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving right along. Our next speaker is from the chairperson for MF-NERC. I'd like to welcome and ask Chief Clarence Easter from Chemohain Cree Nation to come up and say the opening remarks. His opening remarks. Big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning, everybody. Nanaskaman was say sepak. Be mitagok. Ewap mitagok. Betagos sineguta. Minoya agiapits. Egaminati minoya agatigiago. As many of you know, I've been chair for this board for over, I don't know how long. I don't remember the year, but it's been over 15 years now. And during this time, I've seen some good progress. Like together, we brought about significant higher funding per capita, you know, that positioning our communities for greater resources than ever before. Fortunately, though, that it seems that the gains, you know, during the time that's been overshadowed by how much more we have to do. You know, Chair, I'm expected to come up here and provide welcoming remarks and recognize all the great things that we have accomplished and all the good things that we're doing and making. But I just can't do that today. As chair, I feel like I have to, you know, state that we're in crisis. I don't know what this is. That's the MC's. I think that's why we're in crisis today. Too much of that. too much of this. You know, we need to reach out to you, to us, you know, to work even harder like us than ever before to address these crises in our communities. You know, I'm referring to the serious state of mental wellness crisis in our communities that's overpowering our community members and in turn our schools, because our communities are our schools. I request that we dig deeper as you go about your day today or over the next few days, you know, in pursuit of solutions. You know, that we're falling in bringing the results that we have been hoping for, where, you know, we need to bring more solutions into our systems. And I know that, you know, we have more financial resources than ever before. Our children are not benefiting from that. Our schools are more substance abuse, more violence, less academic accomplishments per dollar received than we ever before. Education is the base for all progress. Like that's, you know, that's a given, and our system is not obtaining healthy results. A system that we're following is not doing that. In short, our system is not healthy. Our children are paying for it. We need to change our system. Our system we're following is not working for us. You know, the Cedar Lake was my teacher. Cedar Lake was my mentor. I think we need to go back to that. We have managed to obtain more resources, but our communities are still riddled with inefficiencies, obstacles, as opposed to a collaborative system focused on results. So in my mind, mental wellness needs to be the highest priority in our school system. You know, for example, if a child misbehaves or does something, we shouldn't just suspend them or send them home. We should figure out a way to help them. Many of our children are living in situations that no children should have to live in. We're not able to help them. Our schools are burdened with the task of trying to develop our children mentally, physically, and academically, without the necessary resources to help them address those social pressures that they have in our communities. Like there's a lot of social pressures, and this inhibits development. We've discussed this many times in our meetings, and we fought for many years for adequate funding to bring our schools, you know, more in line with other school division funding. We need now to fight urgently for health funding for our schools to address the mental wellness, you know, the challenges that our children are enduring. We need to fight for more resources to obtain the supports, our staff, you, to be able to support our kids. We need to drive our system into a collaborative, healthy environment that can support our kids at their most vulnerable time of life. You know, we need to drive our system to bring the supports for our staff, for everybody here, the community, you know, that made a commitment to bringing our children along the path of development, accomplishment, and preparation of adulthood and a thriving life. For 15 years, I stood before you as chair, or I think it's more than that. I don't know when the year that I got appointed, but I just don't think about it, so I forget. But I'm proud of the accomplishment that we accomplished up to date. But again, I'm requesting that we dig deeper to address this crisis that we have in our communities that prohibits the results for our children to thrive. Please join me in that quest for the necessary wellness supports our schools require to overcome the crisis and position our kids, to success and a healthy life. We cannot waver from this focus. We must persevere. So as you go about your deliberations the next few days, come up with those kind of ideas, because we really need them. And at this time, we should think about all those communities that are having tragic events and very devastating to, our communities and our community members and our school. Maybe take a moment of silence. I know that Lake St. Martin had an incident over the weekend. Chimawan had an incident over the weekend, and we had 2 young, overdosed in the last couple of weeks. So we need to address these crises, and the best way to address them is in the schools. So I need your support. I want to give it all I got for support from my being a chairman of FNARC. I'll push Charles over the edge if I have to, but all kidding aside, we need to address this crisis. So thank you for listening to me. I didn't want to be too negative. I didn't want to sound like we failed. We are gaining. We are doing more good things than ever before. But as we progress to those good things, it's more that the other side is also progressing. The negative side is also progressing. So we need to persevere in what we're doing and keep doing those good things, because we cannot quit. So thank you.
Thank you very much. During one of the prayers, I kept hearing a ping. So if you can put your cell phones on mute or silence. And also when they're presenting, you can chat a little bit. So use your voices during the break, okay? All right, we'll quickly move along to our next speaker. Our next speaker from the board of MF-NERC is Chief Wayne Desarles from Ebb and Flow First Nation. There's a workshop on how to cook craft dinner, 56 different ways. That'll be down the hall that way.
Miigwech dinak go hinin yok. Kahi madde yot nogum kahi ham wat. Miigwech dina wini nega giba kedang. Kahi ane met ma wing. Akine wiki min sama kamana. Miigwech ni jogun kahi nakamiak. Eshtabi huma kan kakakwe kujung. Oski meskode bizike gimuni midi zagate liznikas. Meskode bizikin dudem. Hapzin gitchina da manom hayek. Mizega bundesik. Hapiz dungen davet wa binu jakas menjayek nogum. Miigwet zugedin enem zo miigwet dina. We makan Easter for anin kewinge. Good morning, everybody. My name is Wayne Desarles, Chief of the Ebb and Flow First Nation. I'd just like to welcome each and every person that's at this workshop conference next few days. I'd like to thank the drum group for doing an awesome job. and the opening prayer. I thank the person that did that. It's very important. We recognize our language and culture. That's why I spoke in my language at the beginning. And I'd also like to thank Chief Easter for his words. You know, we have a lot of good people in our communities. As a former educator, I was in education for 26 years. And I actually got to work with a lot of these people that are in distress in our community. The ones that have mental health issues today because of drugs. But I think this is what Chief Easter is asking about. He sees the people of his community also. You know, what can we do as educators? You know, it's always, I don't have social media. I don't have Facebook or anything like that. I never did and I never will. It was a good tool when it came out. And then something happened. People realized they could put whatever they want on Facebook, which is 99% not true. But anyways, it's very important that we work together with the communities, the leaders of your communities, and also the educators, education directors. Right now, like I said, I was in education for 26 years, and these people that are walking in my community, you know, they were good people and they are still good people. I had a chance to teach them, coach them, take them on field trips, just like the same thing you do today with your students. It's really nice to see people grow in front of you when they ask you questions because they're interested in things that you're teaching them. But we also have to recognize, you know, we don't have the answer. Leadership doesn't have the answer for what can we do for this person, because most of the time it's, you know, when families come to us, we ask the family what could they do because they have more power with that person than leadership does. But I know you're going to have the next few days is very important, and I'm happy to see a lot of people. I recognize a lot of people that I had worked with, and especially the people from Sandy Bay, where I worked for 4.5 years. One of the greatest privileges I had, where the language is very important. But we have to understand, folks, without our language, we don't have too much of a culture. So it's I only have a few community members in this building today, but what we do in our community, we bring the elders in. We have 2 or 3 elders working with different elementary groups, elementary classes. So we try and implement our native language in different ways in our community. So that's probably one thing that I would give a message to each and every one of you out there today. Try and incorporate your language into your classes, even if it's just one word a day will make a big difference. Miwes kiden nim kinomagayek nogum. Muje getuk hawden kabuzik kaik. Shunya panigi duk chikina mondo abinujak. Hawden rabiduta make. Miwes, thank you very much, and we'll see you again.
For learning the language, I forgot to mention I speak Japanese as well too. I'm serious. Tapos ninino ano natamiskat na ako kakinota tako sinik. See, Japanese. All right. Also, I want to apologize to the elder who had a heart attack. I had mentioned that words are powerful, many voices. When I said, "You see your ex," and she looked around, she saw her. Just kidding. Okay, our next speaker is from the board member for MF NERC. I'd like to ask Vanessa. Okay. Oh, she went for a doctor's appointment. Okay, our next, we'll ask then Margaret Leask to come up and say a few words. From Wascoy CP First Nation. No, not from Sapo Taoyak. If you're going to, you'll go that way.
Good morning, everyone. Tanse, ninanas kamun kagi siga kawuta hemamoy tunak hemamoy tun. Ah, sorry, I forgot. But I like to extend my greetings to everyone who's attending the conference. Ayuete, I'll probably say it in Cree. Takumenta magumayo kawigis kinomaya kukuga gitsos misinanik muga kakino gino giskino magewak. Ta wichaya kik tanisiru takiu mag ayu taisiaya michik gumina tagisken takikayu tando to techik. I'm very happy to acknowledge my greetings to everyone, to have that perseverance for our children, for our students in our communities, and to use the language and culture. And more so these past few years, we've been focusing more on land-based education. And that is a very essential and critical way of educating our children to engage our elders, our community leaders, our local parental advisory groups, parents, and also to continue helping our youth. Right now, most First Nations have a lot of youth in crisis, and that mental health support is such an important component of getting our youth back into the school system. So as far as this week, I hope everyone has an engaging time in all the conferences that will be offered here. So egose kinanas ko bitna oga kinao. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You keep talking.
All right. For those who don't speak Cree, I'll do an English word. Everybody say what? A little louder. It's many voices. Okay, say what is the catch? You say that fast 10 times. What is the catch? What is tagats? It means OMG. Okay?
Okay. So yeah, bring up the Grand Chief, then we'll play the Premier's video, then Ovid.
Okay, make sure nobody hears us, okay?
Nobody mind?
All right. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is our Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief. Please welcome Kathy McCurdy, Grand Chief. Kathy Merrick. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this. I apologize. I married you to someone. Kathy Merrick.
He reminds me of my father who tried to marry me off at a young age. So, Hegusane, kagana kita tamiskat na wanuts kaise, minugisigak, minepise, micheta piak, kitsagonya ni motamak. I greet each and every one of you here this morning. And like The MC was wrong when he introduced me, but my name is Kathy Merrick from the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. And my last name comes from my Dakota husband from Sioux Valley. And I'm originally from Cross Lake, Manitoba, where I lived and I grew up. And so before I get started, I have this feeling in my heart that we be able to acknowledge and to be able to remember a very long-term employee of the Resource Center and who just recently passed. And she was a very vital person to be able to work with the Manitoba First Nation Education Resource Center. So in memory of Rebecca Ross, and I know she would have been here, but I'm pretty sure she would have been standing here with us today. So if we could all stand up and do a moment of silence in her memory, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for doing that. So I'm so grateful to be here this morning. Epese wichawitagok, epese ntodatagok, kistawao, epese petaeg, I want to thank Charles Cochran and the Manitoba First Nation Education Resource Center Board of Directors for the invitation to bring opening remarks to you all here on beautiful Treaty 1 territory. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Elder Ed Azier for the opening prayer this morning. Walking Wolf, Ray, Coco Stevenson, and group for the powerful drum and for those powerful songs. And I know you felt that drum, because I felt that drum. I'd like to thank Ken Big Eddie, I'm just kidding. Ken Big Eddie for getting us started in a good way. I just had to, Ken. But I'm very happy he's a good friend of mine. Grand Chief Sati, it's always good to see you, and thank you for being here. As you all well know, the Manitoba First Nation Education Resource Center is the lasting outcome of a resolution passed by AMC Chiefs in Assembly in 1998. And when I mention the late Rebecca Ross, she was from my community. And it was a group of First Nations that took a little bit of their education money to start Manitoba First Nation Education Resource Center at the time. And I know it was a struggle at that time because the people were resistant to have the little that they had in terms of their local education resource center, local money, education money. But she was very persistent and she convinced the leadership at the time that it was the vision. And this was her vision as well as the many pillars that we have lost throughout time. My late mother-in-law, Gwen Merrick, was one of those pillars, and this was her vision. And this is something that we need to be able to continue with the work that we do. So thank you, Chief Easter and Chief Desjarlais, for sharing with us this morning. And thank you as well for this beautiful woman from Sapo Tawiak. During this time, the AMC was mandated to provide administrative, technical language, and school division type services to First Nation-run schools in Manitoba. MFNERC embodies the strength and undying commitment to our First Nation leaders to ensure that our children receive the best education possible, rooted in our culture, in our language, in our traditions, by First Nations, for First Nations. We've come a long way in 25 years. For a quarter of a century, MFNERC has provided much needed support for the quality and relevancy of First Nation education. MFNERC is a collective demonstration of the transformative impact that collaboration, dedication, and community-led initiatives can have on advancing First Nation education goals. But MFNERC also calls on us to remember that education, when not firmly grounded in our own First Nations values and identity, will not take us to where we need to be. First Nations fought hard in the 1970s for the right to education for our children. And I'm sure you have heard stories of our leaders of the time, of the day when they were protesting. And when we protested when they capped the post-secondary education, our leaders climbed flagpoles. Our leaders had to hide the big drum so that they were in the front. So this was all good work, and we're still doing that work. Since this time, countless leaders, technicians, educators, and advocates has transformed First Nation education in the province of Manitoba. And you have done that, and I thank you for that. One such leader is Elder Dr. Harry Bone. To quote Elder Bone, we concentrated on the initial responsibility of making sure as parents that our children were educated, that they attend school, and that they receive the language and an understanding of their way of life. Unfortunately, we allowed the most important part, our identity, to be eliminated from our curriculum. There are thousands of First Nations attending universities, becoming doctors, lawyers, nurses, teachers, paramedics. But as the Father of Canada, current Prime Minister, once said, if you no longer speak your language and no longer practice your culture, then you have no right to demand Aboriginal rights from us, because you are assimilated with the ruling power. These words underscore our responsibility to educate our own children and to define what we teach them. However, I see something incredible happening through the work of MFNERC, and we are witnessing a collective shift, a resurgence. Here in Manitoba, First Nations children and youth are reclaiming their distinct identity as First Peoples. To witness this reclamation within my lifetime fills me with so much hope and so much pride. It is our inherent right to educate our children. And it is our children's inherent right to know who they are outside of the purview of what has been instilled for us, not by us. Seeing our youth learn their language and be on the land transcends education. We talk so much about intergenerational trauma, and as our children and youth breathe new life into our ways, what happens is intergenerational healing. A healing that is essential to charting our path forward. Because to know where to go, you have to know where you have been and where you have came from. Through MFNERC, the hearts of our nations are waking up and fulfilling the prayers of our ancestors who have been waiting patiently for this time in history. Ancestors who have longed to hear our languages dance from the lips of our children and echo through the depths of our blood memory. Ancestors who have waited for us to come home to be ourselves as First Nation people. And this great act of reclamation of self-determination, of sovereignty, makes me hopeful for the future. More than anything, it makes me eager to see where the next 25 years will take us. Micheto, kitane mo tenano yani makaske. Makakinawa o kakinota kapiek, ukitskino makeok. Kinawawa ni ma, kitako nenawa. So all the educators that are here today, we give you that responsibility. And I know that you carry lots through your everyday work that you do, and that you carry it in your hearts to be able to teach our children, as we have given you that responsibility, to be able to teach them in their language, and to be able to teach them who they are and where they came from. This is what is needed in the hard times of our First Nations, when there's drugs and alcohol that has taken over our young people, and we must address that. And I attended last night at an honoring ceremony for Honorable Murray Sinclair and Phil Fontaine that were honored last night. And there was a comment that was made that Justice Murray Sinclair had made a while back. And it was said and it was noted, education got us here. Education will get us out. So I strongly believe that our young people are the new buffalo, and they are the ones that are going to carry us to where we need to be. So and before I close off, I would like to acknowledge my older brother, Edmund McKay. He's here somewhere, and I don't get to see him that often. And he married out to Oxford House, so he carries that dialect, so sometimes I don't understand him. Sagasare, kinaras komit na Mina, the next 3 days that you are here, that you'll be able to share and to be able to come together for our children. Egosane, kinaras komit na
Thank you, Grand Chief Kathy Merrick. All right, we have a little change on the agenda, just a slight change. We're going to be inviting former AFN Ovid McCurdy come and speak, and Grand Chief for MKO Garrison City will do his opening remarks when he does his keynote address. So at this time, please give a warm welcome to Ovid McCurdy.
Thank you. Tansi Dutemak Kiminintena ona gisto mga petamig kagi ayamichega sa yachimuchik ni ganise nawapichik. You know, when an old person gets up, like me, and he's talking about the future of our people, Martin Dutamig, pay attention. Like, you can have all the meetings after the, listen to the speakers that was here. The Grand Chief spoke a great message. But I heard the murmuring of people talking and not paying attention to what a leader is saying to them. Chief Easter spoke about the crisis we are in. It's a crisis about substance abuse. And it is not only affecting the Cree community or the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe. It's affecting the Dene and the Anishinaabe. Misweta wapian, wherever you look, igutaka wapatin, ema da takke gon. So when you look around in your community, as I did when I was chief, I was disappointed, first of all, to find that drugs have become a problem. I had thought that our people were rising, and abandoning all these activities that bring us down. And it's very difficult to be a chief and a councillor, to try to address that problem that is impacting all the children in all our communities. That is the crisis that Chief Easter is talking about. That is not to say that we have not made substantive progress. We have. Even this morning, I saw two of my fellow citizens who were in high school when I was their chief. And today, they are teachers. We have made substantial progress. That is for sure. Tanehimaga. But why is it? Why is it that we allow a negative power to take over our communities? Why? Tanehi. That is our burden. We cannot ignore it. And in my time in Grand Rapids, we did try to address the drug issue. And I remember going to the high school to talk to the students, to ask for their help. And you know what one student said to me? That opened my eyes. He said, "Chief, don't talk to us. Go talk to our parents. They're the ones who have the drugs, not us." This is a crisis that's been growing. And it's not only impacting this province, the people of this province. I do some work in Northern Ontario, and I can tell you, it's there too. And no one has the solution. Some try to address the drug addiction with a drug, Suboxone, a way to try to reduce the harm that that addiction is doing to the individual himself or herself, the family, and therefore the community. But what can we do? You see, sometimes we say the police should do something about it. The RCMP should address this issue, and we blame them for doing nothing. It is true, they are not powerful either. They are restrained by the legislation that their parliament has made in their criminal law. And there is laws that are made to make sure that the police never abuse their power. So many laws prohibit them from entering a home. And everyone is presumed to be innocent until found guilty. But they do have authority. So what we should do, I think, is this. It has to be everyone doing it. I'm not talking about you as individuals only. I'm talking about the political organizations that we have and the chief and councils. We need to have a special gathering just with the courts and the police system, the policing system. Because they have some authority and some resources that they need to apply to this problem. But we cannot just throw it to them. Like in my time in Grand Rapids, we tried to say the leadership should be drug-free. And we had a public meeting on that. And we passed a law that says the leadership has to be drug-free, and the public servants that work for us, our people, our public service, have to be drug-free. We have to set the example, is what we said. And we worked with an organization to do spontaneous kind of testing. It was voluntary. It was not imposed. But the idea was that if you're going to say you're drug-free, then you better be held accountable as a leader that you are. And that is the very least that can be done. But more is required, as you know. More is required. Muna, kagipagit na ino kip matso inanaw. We cannot give up our life. Machimasiski kasnegate to drugs, to bad medicine. And the dealers in our communities they feel safe. They feel like no one's going to touch them because no one does. But we cannot allow the dealers to destroy our communities either. That is what's happening. That is why we need a holistic approach that includes what the Grand Chief talked about, the healing of our people. Taminuayak, Taminentamak, Tasagituek, all these beautiful words in our languages. You know, when your leader Cochrane talked this morning, and he was giving tribute to the people that were leaders in education, I could feel that. I could feel it in my heart because they are my colleagues. They are of my generation. I'm a little older than they are. But we all rose up together. We loved each other. We supported each other. And we wanted to make a major change, a great transformation in the country. And we saw the avenues that were available to us, like changing the constitution of the country, changing the laws of the land, taking over control of education, bringing back our history, our culture, our identity into our own educational system. And that work, as Chief Easter said, is not finished. We have to listen to him. And the holistic approach to drug abuse means we have to show love to these people who are causing the harm in our communities. We have to convince them that behavior is destructive and that if money is what they need, let's create jobs for them. If this is the only reason they're doing it, is to have some source of revenue, let's convince them that there's a better way to make a livelihood than destroying a person's life. So healing has to be a strategy. I know in my own community, we have tried different things. In previous councils, people were BCR'd out of our community. And it may be a temporary solution to get rid of a drug dealer, but it's transferring a problem to another community. So we have to reconsider that too. That the best policy to get rid of drug addiction in our communities is a policy of kindness. And we have to believe that when the elders and the leaders talk to these drug dealers, that they will amend their behavior. It's only when they do not listen, after attempts to have them change their way, that is the only time that I personally would support expulsion from the community. But otherwise, the approach that I think might work is a concerted effort with the criminal justice system and the police. All the leaders of the First Nations, the PTOs, working together to find the resources needed to transform the way in which people see themselves in our communities. And some call that mental health. I say, whatever name matsit. At least a person to be happy that they're alive. That is what our ancestors had. I grew up, as Chief Easter did, along the Saskatchewan River. He on Lake Chimahoin, me on Lake Winnipeg. Our people, Kitepene Miswot, they had freedom. Mistagi at Tuskewak, they worked very hard. They were fishermen, they were trappers, and they were hunters. And there was no welfare in our community. None at all. That is what we grew up with. And the people, like our parents and our grandparents, Kisagituak, they loved each other. Egamina Kipapuak, they laughed a lot. Maga, Munanuga negoni manus. We don't see that as much as before. And we have to revive that one too, where people visit each other, where they don't lock the doors in their houses anymore. This is what we have to seek, the revival of the power and the strength our people had. And I wanted to end my comments and why I took the Grand Chief's speech from her is to take this quote that was cited by her and attributed to the former Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And I'll be damned if I can find it, but it's here somewhere. Anyway, it has to do with what, oh, someone's going to help me. Yeah. You can see that even when it comes to paper, I'm not very good. Can you imagine what it's like with computers? In Ottawa, who was Pierre Elliott Trudeau? He was the Prime Minister of the country, and he did something that made our people rise up to oppose something that he was promoting. You see, Canada was created by an act of law by the British Parliament. It was called the British North America Act. Canada did not have its own constitution. It was created by a foreign government. So they never had the freedom to amend their constitution that was evolved over time. And the British North American Act is their constitution. And Trudeau wanted to make sure that in the future, that any amendment to the British North America Act could be done here at home by the country itself, through their parliament and the provincial governments, and they had an amending formula as a solution to that. But our people across the country did not trust the Canadian government. And we organized to oppose what they call patriation. And many of our leaders went to London to lobby against the patriation of the Constitution. And one of the reasons for that is the treaties. Because the treaties were made not with Canada. They were made with the Crown in England, a woman called Queen Victoria. And they did not want to lose that connection to the British Crown. So they went to the House of Lords in London to oppose the patriation that Trudeau was promoting. And the House of Lords said three things in their decision. We have no reason not to believe Canada will not honor the treaties. And the second thing they said was, no parliament can alter the treaty. And the third thing that Lord Denning said was, you can always come back to us. It is time to go back to them. Because our treaties have not been honored for more than 150 years. And something needs to be done about that. But the reason why I wanted to end my comment by quoting the former Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister's father, was to say, I was there. I was in that room. I am that old. When he said, if you no longer speak your language and no longer practice your culture, then you have no right to demand Aboriginal rights from us because you are assimilated with the ruling power. What's the most important word there for you? Is it assimilation? For me, it is this word, the ruling power. We have to come back ourselves and say, we are the ruling power. That's what the Grand Chief was talking about when she said sovereignty. Now you yell with me. And I can do this too, Chair. You know, you can make a living as a comedian. I can't, but I'll borrow your tactic. So we say together, we are the ruling power. That's pretty pathetic. Now, I'm going to ask you one more time, because I didn't hear a peep from that corner over there. One more time. And we are not assimilated. Naskaman, Naskaman, Naskaman.
All right. Thank you for your incredible patience, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, elders. We're coming to the part where we're going to take a break. For those, there's only 3 people that raised their hands who smoked. So one of the things that elders told me is that we're going to have a video, a 3-minute video. Then we're going to have a break with Wab Kinew. So we'll do that. We'll do the video. After the video, we will do our 15-minute break. Wait, we got to wait the video. Hold on. All right, let's show the video.
Hey, I'm very happy to see you today. My name is Wab Kinew. I'm the Premier of Manitoba. I'm here at the Manitoba Legislature, working real hard for everybody here in the province. And I really enjoyed coming to Lighting the Fire over the years. You've been very generous and gracious in extending me that invitation many times. And I just want to take this moment to say thank you. Thank you for all the important work that you do for students, all of the important work that you do for communities and for our whole province. To all the educators out there, the school leaders, everybody who works in the education system, you're so very important because the work that you do is investments in our children, it's investments in the future, and it's investments in a better Manitoba for all of us. I also wanted to take this time to acknowledge somebody who is very important to me, somebody that we just said, see you again, Kigoab Min Minawatu, just a few weeks ago. Jerry Sumner. Jerry Sumner is somebody that I was very, very close to. He, in fact, would call me son in a very loving way, to take nothing away from the relationship that he has with his boys, Nolan and Leonard. Jerry was the education director for Little Saskatchewan First Nation, and he is somebody who attended Lighting the Fire many times. And so I want to acknowledge his important work for his home community. And by way of acknowledging Jerry, I also want to say that the work that all the education directors, all the school leaders, all the educators out there, as well as everybody at MFNERC does, is super, super important. And so coming from me to thank somebody who is very important to me on a personal level is also an opportunity to say thank you to all of you. And of course, I hope to be able to join you in person very, very soon. So with that, I will say, Kigawa and Andikit. We will see you all again very, very soon.
Okay, if everybody can do me the favor, stand up. Everybody stand up. Everybody. Raise your hands. Everybody raise your hands. I want to take a picture. Okay, hold on. Raise your hands. I want to put that on my Facebook. Had a standing ovation. All right, get out. 15-minute break. 15 minutes. You have come back at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. Have a good break.
Doing a great job, man. Appreciate it. Cool. They're loving you.
language, instruct all doing, and then contact MF NERC for more information. There's also land-based youth summer games in Fisher River on June 5th, 6th, and 7th, and also a baseball tournament on the 5th and 6th. So while we are making our way back into the conference center, we'll have a video. So be mindful of, just look at the screens and we have a video.
Throughout history, First Nation leaders and families have been guided by the right and responsibility to educate their children and help them build a better future. The Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre, now celebrating its 25th anniversary, has worked hard to assert and re-establish First Nations control of First Nations education. Beginning with just a handful of dedicated education workers and other staff, the Resource Centre has grown to include the Manitoba First Nation school system and hundreds of dedicated people, mostly First Nation, that enact the responsibility to educate First Nations youth for the good of their First Nation and Canada. The path of First Nations education in what is now known as Manitoba is a long and interesting story. Elder Rebecca Ross says, in traditional times, First Nation families taught their children how to create a good life as an expression of love.
When the parents, the grandparents were out there on the land, they took the children. They were right beside them. Even the little babies were right there too. They got to see how the parents and the grandparents in the spring, summertime, fall, the land was the classroom. And in the winter time, families lived together. They were actively involved, and they shared the teaching of the children.
With the imposition of colonialism in residential schools, the thread of First Nations education was cut. The stated purpose of the residential schools was to assimilate First Nations youth by breaking the line of First Nations languages and teachings. The late knowledge keeper, Virginia Arthurson, was one of the Resource Centre's first staff members and can speak from her experience in a residential school.
So they put kids in residential schools and started taking the kids away from the parents. And that's basically what the intent was, to kill the Indian and the child. They took the language. They severed the connection, that transmission of knowledge that went from grandparent, great-grandparent to grandparent to parent to the child. And that's the biggest impact and intent of the residential school, was to separate families.
The residential schools existed for over 100 years, but they began to erode with the return of the First Nation soldiers after World War II. The greatest blow to the residential schools occurred during the late 1960s when Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and the Minister of Indian Affairs, Jean Chrétien, attempted to pass the 1969 White Paper.
And you got to remember that people are getting more, after the world wars and all that, or people are coming back, they were getting more knowledgeable. They learned a lot of things while they were out there fighting wars. You know, they brought back knowledge to the communities. They were able to resist more. They were setting up First Nation political organizations at the national level, and they were starting to fight back in the first man's own arenas, in terms of using political action and everything else to resist. It was another form of resistance. So they wrote the White Paper. First Nations wrote Wabang.
In response to the government's white paper, the Manitoba Indian Brotherhood produced Wabung, Our Tomorrows, which asserted that First Nations had a right to self-determination. Dr. Verna Kirkness was the researcher who developed Wabung's statement on education.
That was written in 1971, or finished, completed in 71. And it's a statement by the chiefs of Manitoba on what they wanted in economic development, community development, health, education, treaty rights. This was really the Grand Chief Dave Kershane's initiative, to respond to the 1969 white paper that Pierre Elliott Trudeau, when he formed the government, his idea of having a just society, and was that it would be right to remove the special status of Indians. So my work was in the area of education. And so process used there is when we talk about education, what would you like to see happen in education? Of course, we had all those years and still had residential schools, and children were being removed from their families, and parents had absolutely nothing to say about education, about their children. They were just taken away from them. Trucks or planes or whatever would just land in the community in late August or early September and take a busload, carload, whatever, plane load of people out to the school. So they really had no say. They had no say in their children's education. And this is what came through very, very loudly, very clearly in the paper and in education, that it was time that the parents had control over what would happen to their children.
The late elder Dave Kershane Jr. remembers the work of his father, Elder Dave Kershane Sr., at the time Wabung was put together.
I'll put a little bit of historical perspective to where we're at today. I remember back in the late 60s when, there was a resurgence of our people across the country. And I came from a family that my father was one of the leaders of that time that really, helped initiate, this resurgence right across the country. And certainly in Manitoba, the leaders at that time were very outspoken in terms of that we had to move beyond, the imposition, and to go beyond the colonized environment that we were in. So that spirit was very, very strong amongst the leaders at that time. And then when Prime Minister Trudeau at that time, came forward with what was considered the 69 white paper, of course, the leaders moved on it and rejected this idea of the 69 white paper because it was, to them, it was a move to completely assimilate our people into the dominant society. And the leaders said, we are a unique people. We have a right to our own nationhood. We have a right to our own autonomy and our own right to be a self-determining people. So that is the result of, the position paper of Wabung. And I was just a young fella at that time, but we were put into the communities to seek the voice and the expression of the people. Wabung is an expression of the people themselves. And we were put into all the communities. There were many other workers that were put in.
With the ending of the 1969 white paper, the residential schools began to close in earnest as more and more First Nations worked to secure First Nations control of First Nations education. The Resource Center's current executive director, Charles Cochrane, remembers that time.
When you look at that residential school era and how we came out of it, we looked at that as embracing what we need to do for our children, what we need to teach our children, and not what's been taught, and not the systems that, like your residential school system, that they've been accustomed to. And when you look at that as well, it's not that long ago, it's not that far back when we had the residential schools. So for me, as we got out of it, certainly I know our people look very highly on our own ways, or whether we call it Indian control of Indian education, I'll say that time is the right time, and always been the right time where we determine what's best for our children.
What the government put out for First Nations did not have much weight. It was only a piecemeal funding for all First Nations. But the First Nations came together. They said, we're not going to accept this funding like individually. We're going to come together and create a system, because we want those services that we never were able to get in our schools. We want more than what this gathering strength is going to give us.
I think some of those communities, if you look at it, are allocated not, few $1,000s was not going to do anything for anyone. So the first decision was made to, well, let's work collectively at this. Let's do looking at economies of scale. Let's looking at sharing our resources. Let's purchase things together so that we pay less. All of those types of really good ideas started to surface and simmer. And they decided, let's set up a resource center and start looking at hiring staff to work together to deliver these types of services and help and that expertise to our communities that couldn't really afford it on their own.
Executive Director Charles Cochrane remembers that time.
Back in those days, there was discussions involving things like curriculum development, special education, and the services for accessing special education. And again, certainly some of the areas for when you look at some of the whether it's literacy, numeracy, why not come together and let's build something that we can all utilize together and come build let's work together building a resource center or something like that, so that we wouldn't have to pay those high costs for consultants to come in and provide services.
In December 1998, due to a push from First Nations education directors and through a resolution of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, First Nations leadership within Manitoba created the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center. The Resource Center was mandated to provide enhanced second and third level services to schools that are holistic and address First Nations expressed needs while moving towards the development of a First Nations school system. Lorne Keeper was one of the first employees of the Resource Center. He served as its executive director for over 20 years.
Prior to the coming of European contact, we had our own systems, and our systems were fairly approved. And education, we may not have called it education, but education was key. Our people had to teach our young people to live off the land, and by doing that, that's an education in itself, and that's why our nations have been able to strive, because I often make reference to the collective thought. So we work collectively, and we're able to achieve. And historically, that's the way it was done, and everybody had their role.
Over the years, the Resource Center has evolved from its humble beginnings, providing services on demand with a handful of employees, into a multifaceted organization that supports the needs of Manitoba's First Nation schools through a community-based approach. The Resource Center has provided services and support to 64 First Nation schools in 49 of the First Nations within Manitoba. These schools represent the 5 First Nations linguistic groups in the province. The growth of the Resource Center has included the creation of a Department of Inclusive Services and a Department of Language and Culture. The term special education has been used in the past to describe services needed for students who may have challenges to their learning. To reflect the philosophy of inclusion, the Resource Center's Clinical Services Department is called Inclusive Services. Lorna Prince is its director.
Historically, our First Nations didn't have access to specialized services. There was a need for these services in our communities. It was also very difficult to determine what the needs were like because of varying definitions at that time. In 2016, the department expanded from 15 staff to 57 staff in 1 year, at which time the funding was increased in this program area. Essentially, the staff in these areas help to identify barriers or challenges within our school environments that may exclude student participation and make recommendations to help students feel successful. I'm very proud to work for the Inclusive Education Services Department. Inclusive education is my passion, and I'm hopeful that we can provide more services to students so that every child can feel success in the educational environment.
Davin Dumas is the director of the Language and Culture Department. He says it is crucial to reinvigorate the First Nations languages and dialects within Manitoba.
The importance of language and culture goes back forever, if you want to say that, because right from when Wabang was written, it was identified as one of the key components of education that needed to be brought back. And since then, educators have been working hard to try and implement language and culture. But of course, language and culture sometimes it's not that easy as people think. And again, the funding that was provided was non-existent up until a few years ago, when now communities are able to access monies directly for teaching language and culture, implementing culture programs. So one of the big determinants is the level of language in communities. Some communities are facing severe language loss. So the approaches we have to take with those communities is different than other communities who actually have quite a few speakers that actually work within the school. So it varies, but the current Languages and Cultures Department was, I guess, reimagined through a transition process that was initiated by directors of education and staff at the MFNERC, where there was an amalgamation of some departments to build up the Languages and Cultures Department so that there was more working together on common initiatives, common projects and programs and things like that. So I believe it was in 2017 that there was an initial discussion on change for the organization, that the education directors wanted to see some change. And through a consultation process with an external consultant at the time, we were able to come up with a transition plan, and we identified 6 quick hits as part of that plan.
It took over a decade after its creation for the Resource Centre to fulfill the final part of its mandate to create a First Nations-controlled school system. In December 2016, the Resource Centre, First Nations leaders, and Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada authorized the creation of the Manitoba First Nations School System, or MFNSS, to provide educational programming and enhance supports to First Nations schools. Fulfilling the vision of First Nations leadership to take back control of First Nations education, the school system assumed responsibility for administering and managing elementary and secondary education programs and services for 10 First Nations with more than 2,000 students in July 2017. The Manitoba First Nations school system is unique, designed for First Nations by First Nations, and provides an education system recognizing First Nations languages, cultures, and land-based education as integral for First Nations students. While respecting First Nations control and treaty and inherent rights, the school system was mandated to support schools to improve the quality of education, improve academic standards, and increase student outcomes, including retention, completion, and graduation rates. Due to the efforts of First Nations leadership within Manitoba and organizations like the Resource Centre, as well as a constant push from the First Nations grassroots families who want the best for their future generations, First Nations control of First Nations education has taken hold and continues to grow. Executive Director Charles Cochrane says the students are the focus, and everyone involved with First Nations education wants to give the students the best shot at a bright future. Charles says he wants the kids to use education to make the most of their dreams.
I think it's important that we continue that message of education is key. You know, when you look at in any industry, in any sector, anywhere, in anything, what's the one commonality we have? The one commonality we have is we've all had teachers in our lives. We've all been involved in education. So, like I said, is keeping that in mind, that education is key, and take advantage of your opportunities. And a lot of that is in education. And if you're able to achieve those goals, you're going to go a long way.
The staff and management of the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre are proud to be a part of the education and growth of First Nations youth. The Resource Centre is just one of the tools First Nations within Manitoba are using to express their right and responsibility to teach their future generations.
All right, welcome back, everybody. There's a few people that are absent. When they come in, we'll put them in a corner. All right, we'll get right onto our keynote address here. Grand Chief Sati is from Mitsikamak Cree Nation, Northern Manitoba. He is the Ininu and was born and raised in Cree-speaking home. His parents instilled a strong work ethic, strong spiritual values that keep him grounded to this day. He attended Frontier Collegiate, R.D. Parker Collegiate, and went on to obtain a Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Brandon. Answering the calls of his students and elders, Sati was first elected as councillor and nominated and elected as chief in Mitsikamak. He served as chief from 2008 to 2013. During the tenure of chief and council in Mitsikamak Cree Nation, Sati was involved in a wide range of councils and committees, including the Executive Council of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, Manitoba Kiwitnugumaganak, MKO, and the Assembly of National Chiefs Committee on Education. He also worked in the school administrator and served as a member of the Peacekeeping Patrol Gang Violence Strategy. He was re-elected for a second term in August of 2021. In his spare time, Grand Chief enjoys reading nonfiction history books and biographies. He enjoys playing music and learning to speak Anishinaabe. Ladies and gentlemen, give a big warm welcome to our keynote address, Grand Chief Garrison Sati.
Thank you.
You got your water?
Yeah. Tanse, Yatutemak, Nichasanak, Niwagumaganak, Kinanaskumit now, Anuts Kagisigak, Kapisimawachitweg, Kichige Gonoche, Etoskatamak, Kiskinomagewin, Kitiniminanaguche, Kita Minaguk Inisiwin. Strutamawin, Skentamawin, Gitawichiguchik, Niganichi, Nafitsna Naskum. I am very honored to be in your presence this morning, and I want to thank FNERC for putting me after Ovid Mercury. No pressure, no pressure. But I just want to have short conversation with you this morning. And I also want to acknowledge the elder that opened our gathering in a very beautiful way. Thank you, Ed Asia, for doing that for us. One of our most distinguished leaders and knowledge keepers. Also want to thank Walking Wolf for the songs that they sang for us. It's very fitting because we are Indigenous people and everything we do must reflect our culture and our identity. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs for being here. She did a very good speech on a very important issue regarding our process of moving forward, incorporating our languages and our culture. And I also want to thank MFNERC, the leader, for inviting me to be here. Charles Cochran, I want to say thank you, Gitanaskomitin, for what you're doing for all of us. This is a very important work that we're doing, and I'm thankful that you have stepped up to be in this role, because this is a very important role. This institution will impact the lives of our youth for generations to come. And I've always said that it's a sacred responsibility to be working with children in our First Nations. It's a very important responsibility, and it's very sacred, and we have stepped up. In this room, there are many people that have the calling and the gifts to be able to impact the lives of many of our youth. And me and Charles were talking about every one of us in this room has had a teacher that planted and deposited something that would cause us to move forward and to face challenges and overcome challenges and become who we are as Indigenous people. So it's very important to be able to do that. And I know that Chief Easter was here earlier. I want to acknowledge him as the chair. And also I want to thank all the chiefs that are here. I know that Wayne Desjarlais is here. Me and Wayne went to university together some 5 years ago. Give or take a few. And I'm thankful that here, I know that Chief Andrews is here somewhere in the building, and a lot of leaders are here joining us to be able to work together to accomplish a major undertaking to revolutionize our education systems in our First Nations. It's very important that we work as leaders with the educators in our First Nations. I also want to thank all the education directors that are here. Thank you for the work you do for our First Nations. I want to thank all the principals that are here. I want to acknowledge you for your commitment to develop the minds and the creating spaces of learning in our First Nations where our children can be empowered to be able to grow and flourish and thrive in our communities. Your work is very important, and all the vice principals that stand with them. I used to be a vice principal for a short stint. I must say that I love that job because I never really had to do too much. It's the easiest job I ever had, really. And I was getting paid more than a teacher. Can't beat that. And one of my favorite sayings is, as a teacher, the best part of being a teacher is July and August. Some of you agree with me. Know the importance of what we do. And I just want to say Excuse me, I'm going to take out my gum. Two res here. I want to acknowledge a few people before I go into my little discussion this afternoon. I want to acknowledge one of the inspirations in my life. She's sitting over here, Sharon McKay, the beautiful Sharon McKay. We went to high school together. I always say that. No, she was my high school counselor many moons ago in R.D. Parker Collegiate. I'm glad she's still involved in education. And I also want to acknowledge this is a good time for me to come here because I get to mingle and meet people that I went to school with in university. I see them all over the place. Wave at me if I went to school with you somewhere. Wow. You are all old. And I haven't changed a bit since university. I also want to make a special acknowledgement to two gentlemen sitting over here. Davin Dumas, who works for MFNERC, and newly hired to work for MFNERC's Kevin Nabes. We started university together. Day one, we sat together and we worked together, and we sat at study groups together all the time. We crammed for exams together and we challenged each other. And we always challenged each other to who would have the highest mark in our exams. And we were getting 95s, 98s, and we were just looking at our exams after. And we challenged each other to see who would get the first 100% in an exam. And we tried and we tried, and finally one of us got 100% in an exam in Susan Sukamuru's class. I won't tell you who he is, but he's not working for MFNERC. Thank you very much. And I just want to share a few thoughts this morning, and I'm given this device to work with. And I will try this because usually I don't speak with a lot of notes or technology. So I think they're trying to put me in a position where I'm controlled. But let's see how this goes. But anyway, I wanted to have a very short discussion with you because I believe it's very important as people that work in educational institutions all across Manitoba. And this conversation is very important. And I just wanted to show you something first. I don't know if you can see this. There we go. Think about that for a minute. I never thought we'd be learning from Linus. But the reason why I shared this is because in this room there are thinkers, there are philosophers, knowledge keepers, and there's people here that have a lot of indigenous knowledge. And we have thrived and prospered in an environment that is foreign to our cultures. And we continue to thrive because education empowers us. Education empowers our people. It empowers our youth. It liberates, it emancipates. Education transforms people. It emancipates us from poverty, dependency, to liberate ourselves from a system that was designed to suppress us and to keep us down, to keep us marginalized, to keep us poor. And when you recognize that system, when you recognize it for what it is, you can transform your life. You can transform your nation. You can transform the direction that we're going as Indigenous people. So I wanted to share this with you. So anyway, I am a teacher. I used to say I'm a former teacher, but I still am a teacher. I am very, very fortunate to be able to say that, because a lot of things have happened since the history of our people when they tried to annihilate us, when they tried to destroy who we are as a people. And Virginia Arthurson mentioned something that was attempted by the institutions and the state. Their mission was to kill the Indian in the child. Kill the Indian in the child. That was the mission of the state that we were subject to by introducing the residential school. So I'm very happy that I am now in a position where I became a teacher, and it started a long time ago. And I don't want to scare you with these pictures. 15 years old, Frontier Collegiate, Cranberry Portage, Manitoba. That's where I began my journey in education. Who's that guy? Black hair, a little mustache. Not bad. And this is who I've become. And I credit that to education. Education empowers you. Education opens doors that you never thought would open. Education frees your mind. Education gives you courage and confidence to overcome challenges in your life. That's why I'm proud of our Indigenous teachers in this room, because we have come a long way. We have come a long way where we are now in positions of prominence in this nation. I'm very proud when our people succeed, when I see Indigenous lawyers in our assemblies. In our gatherings, we have Indigenous people sitting there representing us. The days are gone when we allow external people to come and think for us and speak for us, because we now can think for ourselves and do things ourselves and speak to the governments for ourselves without relying on lawyers. We can do that now. As teachers that are sitting here, we now speak the same language as the governments. We can unravel and also dismantle the things that they use to strategize to keep us down. We can bring these systems down, and we're ready to do it. I don't know about you. I am ready to revolutionize our education systems and our governance systems to where they incorporate our values, our culture, and our beliefs. We can do that today. So thank you very much for being here. I want to acknowledge for a moment a mentor that I've had, and she was acknowledged here previously. But I also want to take a few moments to acknowledge Rebecca Ross. She hired me many years ago to teach a course that I really wanted to teach. And that was First Nation Studies. That was my passion. I asked her, can I teach these courses for our people? And she just gladly opened the door. And then we came into a position where we piloted a course on Indigenous law. And Chief DeJarlis, you remember that? We took on that challenge to teach Indigenous law in our high schools, and we had to train for that. And in that process, Wayne DeJarlis and myself started to know things and teach things that were impacting the lives of youth. And when you do it for a long time, these kids start talking to their parents. You should get this guy to run for chief. He's teaching us these things. And they kept after me for 8 years. I said, I'm not a politician. I'm a teacher. And they kept coming after me. So finally I said, I'm going to try this once. And if it doesn't work, I'm never trying it again. And the rest is geography. Yeah. Some of you didn't get that. But anyway, like I said before, I want to honor all of you that are sitting here. There are many thinkers here. There's many philosophers here. You don't see yourself that way, but you are. Everyone that is sitting in this room, you have a certain perspective that you've accumulated through years and years of experience and working in this field. You gain a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge you impart to people around you, inspiring them, pushing them forward. And I'm really glad that we're coming to an era. We're living in very interesting times, my relatives. And I say this many times, that we see our people in places of power. And on this very, very day, we have in the legislature a premier who is Indigenous. A premier that sings in powwows, a premier that dances in powwows. Premier Wab Kinew is one of us. We have come a long way. And he knows how to change tires, by the way. We've come a long way, and I want to acknowledge the thinkers, the philosophers, the Indigenous knowledge keepers that are here, because you contribute to the building of our nations. You contribute to the building of our people. And I wanted to just share a few thoughts on a book that I read, and I'm sure some of you have read it. It's called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. How many read that, by the way? Nobody has read it? Well, I'm glad I'm here. This is a book called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. How many wants this? Who wants this? Come and get it. Run. There you go. So we're talking about minds, many minds that guide us and direct us and challenge us, inspire us in the field of education, especially Indigenous education. And one of the things that we must realize is that, that this system is foreign to us. It is a foreign system, and it has a perspective. And unfortunately, this system was used to subjugate, dominate, and oppress our people. I want you to think about that for a minute. The system that was used to try to annihilate our cultures, our nations, and our people is a system that we inherited. It's a colonial system. It's entrenched in the philosophies and the ideologies of a people that didn't even consider us to be human. The main purpose of the Indian Act was to civilize, protect, and assimilate our people. And their goal and their aim was to annihilate our culture, our identity, and our languages. That was the sole purpose of the Indian Act. And they used the highest religious orders to be able to administer and initiate this process. That's the system we inherited. It's not our system. But today we're in a position as leaders of Indigenous education to start to transform, revolutionize our education systems all across this nation. Because those aggressive forms of assimilation did not work. They failed. Because we are a strong people, a resilient people, and we have survived everything that the governments and the state threw at us. And in this room, I'm glad to say there's many people that still have their language. And they still have their identity. Being proud of who you are, knowing who you are, knowing where you came from, knowing your history, that is something to be proud of. Give yourself a hand because I'm very proud of you. So this is one of the thinkers. Paulo Freire was a person that started to think about the oppressed in his country, how this system to dominate, suppress the cultures and the languages and the identity of people. He came to a place where he had to think to confront this system. He wanted to confront this system, and he wrote this book, and he went to jail. They put him in jail to try to shut him up, because this idea of emancipating yourself from oppression became dangerous to the dictators. It became dangerous to the institutions that controlled and suppressed his people, and they put him in jail. Because these ideas were dismantling systems, destroying systems of oppression, and his ideas were very dangerous. And I think, my relatives, it's about to get dangerous for all of us. Because we're no longer accepting the oppression. We're no longer accepting the racism. We are no longer accepting the fact that we are inferior. We are not inferior to anybody. I like what Ovid said. I am not assimilated. We are not assimilated, and we will never be assimilated. We're going to regain our culture. We're going to regain our identities. And most of all, the task of learning our languages is very important, because the language is the place where we begin to discover our histories, our ceremonies, our teachings, our philosophies. That's where we find them. So I encourage you, for those of you that do not speak your language, never give up. One word at a time, one phrase at a time, one paragraph at a time, if you will. Because slowly but surely, we're coming back to being who we were created to be, as proud, strong, powerful Indigenous people. We're there right now. We're getting there. Let's continue. So he was one of the thinkers. So anyway, his idea where the teachers were in a position of a higher position than the student was an object to be programmed, to be conditioned, to be brainwashed, if you will. And the residential schools attempted that, to brainwash our people, to try to make themselves ashamed of who they were, ashamed of the color of their skin, ashamed of the length of their hair. They were taught to be ashamed of how they dressed. They were ashamed because they spoke their language and they knew their ceremonies. They were shamed into believing that they were inferior. They were shamed to be who they were. And it took a long time for all of us to come out of that we can now come into a place like this. We can speak with confidence in our language. We are no longer ashamed. We are no longer embarrassed. And we do not make apologies for speaking our language or doing our ceremonies anytime, anywhere, any place. We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're here to stay. So dehumanization is what they try to do with us. They tried to make us feel that we were inferior. And in many places, this system is being perpetuated. But I'm so thankful that in our systems at MF-NERC, we're doing the opposite of what they're trying to do. So I want to thank MF-NERC and also people that worked with us in the past, Lauren Keeper, Virginia Arthurson, Ralph Arthurson, George Ross, Rebecca Ross, like I said. And there's many, and forgive me if I can't remember all of them, but they were part of our process to dismantle a lot of these ideologies designed to oppress us. And we've done a very good job. And I see in this room, there's so many people that have been successful and have managed to transform the education system. So this whole thing of these ideologies, these Eurocentric points of view was all about the cultural invasion. But I'm thankful that we're beyond that. So I wanted to share a few thoughts, and I don't know how I'm doing on time. I have 6 minutes. I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started. But one of the things I wanted to share with you, we in this room are on a journey, and we have been on a journey to decolonize education. We have been on a journey to dismantle a lot of ideologies that were designed to program us and condition us to be a certain way. We are revolutionizing Indigenous education. It's not all about academics. It's not all about academics. But the most important part of education in our communities, in our nations, is to restore the identity of our people, to empower them, to strengthen them that they can stand up boldly anywhere and any place without fear, but with absolute confidence, knowing who they are as Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, Dene, Inuit. I'm so happy that we can do that. We can stand in these places. And I'm in a position of leadership. And I must confess a few things. I'm never shy to speak to anyone in government. I've been in the room with the Prime Minister. I've been in the room with premiers and ministers. I am never, ever shy, nor am I'm never in a position to feel intimidated by them because of the education that I've received, but also knowing who I am. The only time I get a little bit nervous if I have an Ovid Mercury in the crowd or a Phil Fontaine in the crowd. I start to get a little bit self-conscious because these are great, these are our warriors, these are our leaders. So we're in the process of decolonizing education. And this book, I'm sure that MFNERC has distributed this book throughout the years. And it's all about decolonizing the devastating impacts of indigenous knowledge. So we're undoing all of the damage done by forced assimilation and also the policies that were designed to subjugate us, oppress us. Now we're going to build on that framework of allowing our identity to be acknowledged in our schools and also to be able to rise up and face the economic conditions of Aboriginal populations. And what reason why I say that is because, as you know, 85% of most First Nations across Canada, 633 First Nations, 85% of our people are unemployed, some places more. But what I'm saying is that we can come to a place where we empower our youth to be educated, to liberate themselves. And the only way they can do that is being confident of their identity, reversing those negative impacts of colonization. The identity is the most crucial thing about all of us. And also to learn your language and also to know your culture. So I know how many minutes? 2 minutes. I'm going to skip some of that. So I guess what I want to say is that we're on a journey to decolonize our education system. And the most important part of any educational institution is the curriculum. I am one of those people that will look at curriculum and I look at who wrote it. There's usually one or two Nietzsches in the mix. And the rest are non-Indigenous people telling us about our history, our culture. I want to change that where it's all Indigenous people change the curriculum. I want all of our people to be involved in curriculum development because I know we can do it. And I think it's time for that, where the curriculum is designed and built by our own people, no longer allowing non-Indigenous people to dictate how we run our educational institutions, because they're perpetuating a system that should not be in our First Nations schools. But we will design it, we will build it, and we will make strong and powerful people in the future, 7 generations forward. So anyway, I'm running out of time. All right, as you're chewing your salad, I will slowly wind down. But one of the things I want to encourage you to do, there is a knowledge that I've been searching for, and I'm sure you have too. My main passion is learning pre-contact history. And Kevin, you might remember, this is gin and soda, thank you. I did a presentation on pre-contact self-government in university. It's about learning how our governance systems worked prior to European contact. And that knowledge you can't find in textbooks. That knowledge you can't find in universities. You can't find it in libraries because it's a knowledge that's imparted from our elders. And I strive to continue to learn about even our systems of child welfare, our systems of justice. We had our own systems of governance, justice, child welfare, and they were all taken away from us, but we're taking them back. Child welfare, we're taking control of child welfare. The law has been passed where each First Nation can dictate how they want to administer child welfare without the interruption of provinces. Even the justice system. That justice system is not working for our people. It's failing our people. Our young people are being institutionalized, incarcerated for misdemeanors, and they get sucked into that system because our systems work for us, and we should be allowed to exercise those systems. They have withheld that from us a long time, but we're taking everything back. So anyway, that knowledge that I'm talking about, we need to find that knowledge of our history and incorporate it into our curriculum. And I like this. This is one of my heroes here. And I think I'll close off with this. One of the warriors we had, one of the most recognized Indigenous people in the 70s and 80s was Chief Dan George. And he was a chief for 16 years in his own nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And in a time where Canada was celebrating its 100th year of being a state nation, they invited him to come and speak, supposedly to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Canada. And they thought he was going to be just a token representation of Indigenous people. But they were inviting a chief, a warrior to this gathering, and he spoke a very powerful message about how can I celebrate Canada's 100th year anniversary when you strip me of my languages, when you strip me of my governance, when you strip me of my identity, when you strip me of all the things that I hold dear to my, how can I celebrate with you? And you totally rebuked the whole nation for what they did to Indigenous people. And he left the whole crowd stunned. For 10 minutes, there was silence until somebody started to clap, and the whole place erupted because a warrior was in the room that was not going to take, excuse my language, the bullshit anymore. There was a warrior that refused to subscribe to the ideologies and the oppression anymore. And it was then our leaders began to rise up. During the white paper, when they're trying to do away with our treaty and Aboriginal rights, our people came together for the first time and said no to Pierre Elliott Trudeau. We are not accepting the white paper. And the Red Nation was rising up, and the Red Nation came out of that. Eventually, we had National Indian Brotherhood, and then Assembly of First Nations. And today, our people have risen up. We're no longer taking the crap. We're no longer taking the prescribed ideologies of the foreign culture. We have come into our own. Let's dismantle the decolonization of education. Let's rise up. Kinanaskumit now. Thank you for listening to me. Hi.
Chimigwech, Grand Chief Sete. By the way, that was a keynote message and not an election speech. First of all, thank you, I want to say thank you, really sincere thanks to the leader, the messages from our leaders, our powerful messages. You know, messages in politics and education. Sometimes, all too often, they do intermingle. But again, we take a lot of pride in making sure we advance education wherever it is, and if it means in the political field, then so be it. I want to thank Chief Easter's message on the focusing on healing our nations. Very powerful messages. Our Grand Chief, Kathy Merrick's message on leading the way in education. And then, of course, the reflection on our past education leaders such as Gwen, Rebecca, Shirley, Virginia, and many others. I heard people like George, colleague of ours, Ralph, colleague of ours, and those people. Ovid's message on being powerful as a nation, and then as well as bringing attention to the huge influence of drugs in our nations, and then finding ways to curb and eliminate those drugs in our nation. So again, thanking Ovids for the message. And then, of course, our Grand Chief Garrison Sete, powerful message, and certainly powerful in eliminating the oppressed systems that we have been imposed on for many, many, many decades. But how strong we are today, how strong we are today because of our pride as First Nation people, and again, expressing the messages that Grand Chief has provided. And with MFNERC, we will take these messages that have been brought to us and take advantage of them so that we can be better for your children, for our children and your children. When we look at our supports through our organization, supports and services is our bread and butter, and it's important that we maintain that. I thank our departments, the staff here, language and culture, inclusive education, technology, and our Manitoba First Nation school system. We appreciate these messages. I do want to thank our interpreters, very important to us in the work that we do. Messages today as well is the importance of supports in the schools, the supports we provide in terms of mental wellness. And that also has to impact in the schools as well. We need, I'll say it, the work we do, we need more counseling supports. We need more counselors in our schools. That's important. And what we haven't heard very much is about the academics. Literacy, numeracy, physical and health education, sciences, social studies. Again, we look very important to make sure that we have that strong balance of language and culture, inclusive ed, but also our academics is very important. I will never correct my good buddy, Garrison, never, Grand Chief Sete. One thing about when you use the word curriculum. That is not our word. We've gone away from using the word curriculum because it's really our knowledge and teachings, and that's what we're doing within our work in the center. So again, I say Gichimi Wech to the people that have spoke, that have provided those very strong messages. And I know lunch is coming, lunch is here. Again, Gichimi Wech, thank you everybody for being able to listen to those very strong and powerful messages of our leaders. So Gichimi Wech, thank you very much.
Thank you. One of the thing, I wanted to apologize to the elder that was taken out in ambulance. And I wanted to share a little bit about when I was in Pagarawagan. I worked with youth, and our crime rate went from 77 young offenders, and in 1 year it dropped to 19. I had a junior chief and counsel. And one of the elders who've since passed away from Mosagahigan told me, said you cannot tell a young person to stand up straight unless you stand up straight first. So I finished my university studies and I went back to working with youth. And I wanted to show you a picture, if you look at the screen, of one of the youths had reminded me the following year we were walking on a trail, and this is in God's Lake Narrows. Said, Ken, are we going to do our prayer? So we stopped and then we did our prayer. So that's one of the things I still continue with the guidance that I use with the elders. And also, I've also been mistaken for Wap Canoe. If we can go back to the camera. Okay, I'll do my best. Okay, hold on. Camera, follow. Get the camera to follow me. Bring the camera down. All right, we shall, you can stay seated. I'll do a quick prayer in my language for the food, and you don't need to stand up. Mamo tayo gusiman to gananas kumitnan hapisits na mo ya mitsuin putak mi nagisagaw tapmo tatayan mam tunit sigan pigiskuinan sa widita mi nan mitsuin na nagomi no minawasok agomi nagtamidot nanagatsita at matsuin na nanutsa gisagag hi. All right.
In about, let's say 20 after, you can start introducing the jiggers, and I'll make certain they're ready. All right. Doing a great job, brother.
All right. Salad, then we have our food, and then about halfway we will have some entertainment.
All right. Okay. So that went well. Yep. I'm glad you got this whole speech in. I didn't want to disappoint him. I love Garrison. He's a great guy.
Go. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
You gonna grab this?
Yep.
Okay. I gave him his VIP gift already. Hello, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to give you a little bit of information. Norbert here, give a wave. His class is one of the most popular classes over the years. He does all the the land-based teaching, and a lot of what's going to happen over this session is teaching gym teachers and stuff, physical activity, and how it relates to health. Now, his course is being taught at the U of M in the Max Bell Center. Okay, so there is a bus that is going to be out in the parking lot at 1 o'clock. It holds 48 people. So it's a first come, first serve kind of thing. If you can get on the bus, that's great. We already have 22 pre-registered, so we only need about, I'm not bad at math, but less than 48. So if you want to take care of Norbert's class, please be out at the parking lot at 1. He will be having the class tomorrow in the afternoon as well. So if you don't make it today, you might be able to try to get out there tomorrow. But first come, first serve, school bus in the parking lot at 1. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready for the square dancers. We have the Master Jiggers and dance trio, dance consisting of Ryan Richard, Ashley Campbell, Felicia Morrisseau. And they come from the rural communities and we're currently residing in Winnipeg. They also dance in square dancing group called United Thunder, Asham Stompers. They have been dancing together for 20 years. They're from Sandy Bay Ojibwe First Nation. Ryan Lee Jigger from his grandmother, Irene Richard, has been dancing since he was a toddler. From Eben Low First Nation, Ashley Totter is a self-taught jigger, been dancing for 19 years. Felicia is from Crane River and also a self-taught jigger. Fiddler extraordinaire is Sean Morrisseau from Lake Manitoba. First Nation accompanies the group. Ladies and gentlemen, the Master Jiggers.
No, I need that one. Oh, he's coming, he's coming.
How'd you guys like that? You don't have to scream. I don't want you to shoot any food in anybody's hair. Hey. But you never know, eh? Their dickums could be hungry too. Hey. But yeah, we are the Master Jiggers. My name is Master of the Jig, Ryan Richard. Hold for applause. Just kidding. To my left, your right, you have Felicia Morso, Queen of the Jig. And I don't know where Ashley Campbell went. Oh, she's sweating too hard, that girl. Just kidding. But we couldn't be able to fly around here and be Master Jiggers without our Master Fiddler, Mr. Sean Masu, all the way from Lake Manitoba. So we did a little medley for you. We did a little turkey in the straw and chicken reel. So now we want to do a little Red River jigging for you. But we're going to get one of his daughters out here. You know, we like to spread our culture and share our stage. And we're going to get one of his daughters out here. We're going to get Bianca out here to do a little step for you. You know, Bianca is here. She has a little miracle baby. She's doing so well. Here she is. We're trying to get her back into go. So let's give a big hand for Bianca Masu. Okay. Oh, wow. You know, we like to keep it in the family. So we're going to get her younger sister because Sean taught them all they know because, you know, he plays the percussion with his toes. Yes, I said his toes, not his hangnails because because the hangnails turned into calluses now. Just kidding. But yeah, we're gonna call up her Bianca's younger sister, Cecilia Masu, up here to go. And then we're gonna get the baby of the family to come out. So here's Cecilia. Bring a big hand for Cecilia Masu. 3 changes to Red River Jig. Oh, yes. And you know, we're going to get little Miss Perfect here. Aw, this is her little shirt. Look, it says Little Miss Perfect. And she is perfect in every way, everybody, because she's a really good jigger. So here we go. We're going to give Sean a little break because this poor little thumb, you know, you can see he highlighted his #1 Okay, here we go. Isabella Masu. Give her a hand, everyone. Oh, the first one to blow a moccasin. She blew 2 moccasins. Ooh, she knows how to kick up her heels. Next, we're going to get up Charles Cochran up here. I'm kidding. We're not going to get him up here. We're going to get Curtis Niepanak up here and Colleen. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do that to you. But we'll do that to Davin. Now we're gonna do some rhetoric for you. Let's hear it for Sean Masu's daughters. Yes, Bianca, Cecilia, and Isabella. Okay, so we are gonna do the rhetoric for you. The master jiggers, myself, Ryan, Felicia, and Ashley. Oh, okay. Oh. Do you need it? You know, we like to dance through anything. We'll dance through a storm. We'll dance through a severed finger. As you don't notice, our fiddle player severed a little bit of his finger, and here he is playing for us. So let's give him a hand, Mr. Sean Masu. We need to give him all that energy so he can last us this little bit that we have for you. Okay. Now, I know you guys are all dancing and eating. I'm sorry. You guys are all eating, but if you want to dance it off, you're welcome to join us up on here on stage. We're going to do a mini little workshop with you, do a little drops of brandy for you. Just a little mini workshop. It's no, maybe not. Or how much time do we have, mister? We have enough time? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so do we have any brave people out there who want to get up on stage and come and do some stepping with us? It'll be a quick little lesson. It won't be strenuous or anything. It won't be, oh, look at that. We have some, let's give them on, you guys, Mr. Charles and, what's his name again? Garrison City. Oh, look at these guys. Who wants to be their partner? Oh, look, grab a partner here. Look at these fun. Okay, you'll be right here. You'll be right there. You'll be right there? Okay. Okay, we need a couple more people. Come on down. Come on, Myrna. I see you coming up. Come on, Lorna. We're doing a demonstration. Yes, you are too. Okay. Yes, you are welcome. Okay, come on in. Okay, here we go. Awesome. Okay, take this first, he says. He's going to pay me to do another demonstration here. Okay. We were gonna do the drops of brandy, but you want to just do heel toe instead?
Oh, it's up to you. Sure.
Yeah, we'll do heel toe. It'll be easy. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is going to be so much easy. We were going to do a square dance, but you know what? We're going to take it easy on these guys because they have to be at work all afternoon. So what we're going to do, you guys, so you know what? We're going to go with our right foot. We always start with our right because we ain't wrong. I'm just kidding. Okay, so what we're going to do with our right foot, we're going to go heel, toe, 1, 2, 3. So what that looks like, it's going to go heel, toe, 1, 2, 3. The 1, 2, 3 is stomping. So it's heel, toe, stomp, stomp, stomp. Heel, toe, stomp, stomp, stomp. Again. Oh, yeah, come on over here. Come in the back. So ready? Here we go. Heel, toe, stomp, stomp, stomp. Heel, toe, stomp, stomp, stomp. Again. Heel, toe, stomp, stomp, stomp. Again, heel, toe, stomp, stomp, stomp. This is the part where we're going to go fast, okay? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's it. Just jigging. Or you could go kick, hop, 1, 2, 3, kick, hop, 1, 2, 3. Or you could just jig. If you already know how to jig, just jig. I know you know how to step it out. You bumped me out of first place there that 1 year. Okay, so here we go. Sean, take it away. We're going to do heel toe polka for you. Heel toe, 1, 2, 3. 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 Now go fast. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, heel toe. Heel, toe, 1, 2, 3. Heel, toe, 1, 2, 3. Heel, toe, 1, 2, 3. Heel, toe. Again, 1, 2, 3. 1. Okay. One more. Heel, toe, 1, 2, 3. Toe, 1, 2, 3. This is the last one. Take a bow, everyone. Oh. Okay. Now, you people here, before you guys go out of the way, we want to see you guys do the Red River Jig. Oh, no, they don't want to do the Red River Jig. You want to try the Red River Jig? No, she goes. Okay, so break down. Break down? Yeah, okay. Huh? You want to try a couple tricks? Oh, we got a brave ones. We got some brave ones. We like to see some courage. We want to hear some encouragement and some motivation. Let's clap for these young ladies here who want to show up and show their moves. Let's get louder than that. Let's give them a no. Give them a round of applause. Give them a noise. 7? Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Split Lake, Manitoba. Woo! Here they go. Thank you. Split Lake, all the way, Split Lake. I almost said Cross Lake. Do we have anybody from Cross Lake? I know there are good jiggers over there too. We are going to do your breakdown for you. So make sure you don't choke on your food. Make sure you leave room for me to fly by and grab a potato. I'll mistake it for a bun. Okay, here we go. The Master Jiggers with Mr. Sean Masu.
I'm starting with solos.
Yeah.
I'll use Lost Child pick. I can't get the. Yeah. Whatever you. 4 jig and the Lost Child and 2 rounds.
Yeah,
Sounds good. All right.
It sounds better. Red River Jig, Lost Child, and the Orange Blossom Special. So don't be calling CFS on you because we got a lost child here. Just kidding. Bad joke, bad joke. Yeah, yeah. Okay, ready? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Master Jiggers. Let's hear it for Mr. Sean Masu. Bianca, Cecilia, and Isabella Masu. And our master jiggers, Ashley Campbell Harris, Felicia Morso, and myself, Ryan Richard. Thank you so much for having us. Enjoy your meal and enjoy the conference. Chimigwech. Your master jiggers.